The Tour de France is what I did it all for. I mean, that's how I'd fallen into my love of cycling. And then I started racing, and I did realise quite quickly that I was a bit better than most of the other kids I was racing against. I went to Belgium and stayed with a family in Belgium in a place called Ypres and raced kermesses, and I loved it. And I came back to England and worked in the local supermarket at night and trained during the day and prepared myself for moving to France the next year and basically begged and grovelled until I found a team in France that would take me as an 18-year-old amateur. There's one thing going from junior to amateur. I mean, that's a jump, there's no doubt, but nothing prepares you for the jump from amateur to professional. Cyril Guimard, who is a legendary figure in cycling, was starting up this new team, Cofidis, and which wasn't based that far from where I was in France. And I remember him coming down to Saint-Quentin, planning out my career in front of me at that table, and he was telling me that in the year 2000 I would do my first Tour de France. I based the whole next year and arriving at Tour de France in 2000. It started off with a 16-kilometre time trial, which is equivalent to 10 miles, and one of my first ever bike races had been a 10-mile time trial. So when I saw the Tour de France started with a 10-mile time trial, I kind of kept it quiet, but realised that it was an opportunity that was very rarely going to arise in my life, and it felt almost fated to a certain degree that it was like that. And the next day I did it. I beat Lance by 2 seconds, which was, that was magic. I cried like a baby on French national TV. That was a bit of a weird day. All my family and friends came to the last day on the Champs-Élysées, and my sister was there with her best friend from school, and her name was Zoe, and Zoe said to my sister, "Guys, look at him, Fran." She's like, "What?" "He's actually doing his dream. He's actually fulfilled his dream." Towards the end of my last year amateur, I got warned by some of the guys in my amateur team that it was going to be a different world with the pros, and to kind of prepare myself for it. But I mean, I was kind of blissfully unaware and was very idealistic regards my sport. I wouldn't have not gone to art college if I thought that I was going to be entering a world where there was prolific doping. You are expected to perform, and I think that's normal in any sportsman, really. I mean, once you start to hit big races, win the big races, then you're supposed to keep doing it. Well, I mean, the Tour de France is such a big race, and especially for a French team, it was my winning the first stage of the Tour de France and getting the yellow jersey. It meant that the rest of the Tour de France was basically a holiday. Because otherwise, being a French team at the Tour de France, especially the team I was in, it was just a stress fest. And they'd raced me, I think, 58 days racing before the Tour de France in 2001. And I mean, I'd been going well, but coming up to the Tour, my form started to be really up and down. Well, this is when it all went a bit Pete Tong, as we'd say in England. So I got to the Tour de France and it had a prologue, all good for me, and it was at Dunkirk, about 50 kilometres from the headquarters of our team sponsor, and I'd won it the year before the first stage of the Tour, and everyone was expecting great things of me, and I knew deep down I couldn't do it. I just didn't have the conditions. So I mean, I figured if I just rode it perfectly and I took extreme risks on the corners and just touched barriers and clipped curbs, then there was a chance I could still go top 5 or top 3. And on the last corner, I lost it and I went slamming down. And so I started the next day, just my whole left side smashed up, and then physically I was just pretty bashed up, but psychologically I was just in a body bag. And I mean, I think my team, I mean, should have, would have, could have, I was just wanting them to tell me to stop and to go home and rest up and get ready for the end of the year. And I could see that the whole team was reliant on me. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I stopped the race, and I was devastated, and yet euphoric. It was just like, it's over, like the suffering's over. And that was the night at Alpe d'Huez where I was invited into the room. The night I stopped, I was basically invited into the room of one of the elder riders. We sat down, we chatted about the fact that it wasn't the end of the world, that I'd stopped the Tour de France, that we still had the Tour of Spain, and that it was up to me now to go home and recover from the Tour, and that it was a good idea, in their opinion, for me to go to Italy and spend time with this older rider. And this older rider happened to be somebody who I knew from within the team, who had already been a chaperone as such to another rider in the team the year previously, and let's just say had taken care of his doping needs. And the odd thing is, it's when I went into that room, I was still sure I wasn't going to dope. And I walked out of that room knowing I was going to go to Italy and dope. And it was as anticlimactic as that. And that's the thing that makes me not so much angry as just sad. There was more people there willing to guide me in that direction than the other way around. And that was one of the problems with the sport at the time. I did enough to give me to guarantee my results at the Vuelta. And I did win it, and I won it by 1 second. And I remember just pure, absolute, unadulterated relief. Very little joy, just thank God. And I don't think that's the way you're supposed to kind of feel after you win races. From 2001 the first time to 2003, there were 3 phases, 3 blocks where I doped. And that was when I decided I was going to stop completely. As good as I thought I'd been at hiding it, I wasn't that good. And eventually it caught up with me. So much cynicism, and I think the young riders need to know you can win races clean, like with nothing. I mean, I do no injections whatsoever anymore, nothing. I did a 3-week stage race that year after 2 years not racing, did the Tour of Spain and won the 14th stage, and I've been having a multivitamin every morning. And I think like the young riders need to know that, because it's such a kind of a culture shock in our sport that it's possible to do that. I'm 30 years old, which is getting on a bit now, I suppose. I turned pro when I was 19 in 1997, and that was a long time ago in cycling. I was rooting with Tony Rominger and Maurizio Fondriest, and that's a whole generation, almost 2 generations ago of cyclists. I've seen a lot of things that I should have never seen. I've done things that I shouldn't have done. And I think with Jonathan Vaughters, all the riders that have been chosen are kind of chosen not only because of their riding ability, but because of their personalities as such. And not only me, but I feel that every single one of us in the team, from Maggie to Julian to Christian, even Dave, I think we can all bring something hugely important to these guys coming up, and also to American cycling, I hope, and world cycling. If teams and team managements don't take on a responsibility to look towards the future and to kind of to build and to try and make a difference, then we're going to go nowhere. What we're trying to do with Slipstream is something different. We just want to make a difference. It's just like kind of give people a ray of light and a bit of fun and a bit of something to believe in again. And I mean, it's not only by chance become the #1 American cycling team. I think it's going to become not only a flag-bearing team for the States, but a flag-bearing team for world cycling. I came into the sport loving it so much and so driven and so sure in where I was going to go with it. And like I said, 10 years down the line, I was lying in a prison cell in Biarritz, confused, sad, and just baffled as to how I'd got myself into that place. That it is such a wonderful sport, and it does bring the most amazing things out of people. That's what we have to remember. That's what the sport's about. It's not just about getting points and winning. It's about kind of getting the best out of ourselves. And what Jonathan's taught me, it's not just about the winning or the ultimate goal. It's the process that's so important as well. It's it's making excellence a habit and not a goal. And I think that's what we can learn, is that the process is almost more important than the actual outcome.